Welcome to the podcast where we challenge the way you see food. I'm your host, Ariane Bozarth, a board-certified nutrition specialist and founder of ASO Nutrition. I'll make you question everything you thought you knew about diets and nutrition. Spoiler alert, all diets fail, and it's not your fault. Join me as we explore your body's bio-individual needs to finally put an end to the frustrating cycles of trial and error in chasing nutrition solutions. Nutrition isn't a one-size-fits-all, but you do have a biologically designed perfect fit. It's time to unlock your body's brilliance. What if I told you that as a clinical nutritionist, I don't work with diets? How shocking would that sound? Well, it makes complete sense when you understand the bio-individual approach to nutrition. What it reveals is that by their nature, all diets fail. And here's why. Diets are not designed for your biology. They are designed to control a generalized aspect of biology. And the issue is that this does not take into account the system as a whole. And it definitely doesn't take into account your bio-individuality. If you alter a metabolic pathway through a specific diet, then the body is forced to take an alternate route. Does this route serve you in the long run? Does it align with your specific genetic needs? To answer that question and to understand what you need to sustain life, energy, health, function, and form, think figure you desire, you, your body, and your biology matters. Your genes, your genetic master design, and all the variants that make you unique determines what nutrients are required to make your metabolic pathways run smoothly. It's this template that determines whether any type of food will create health or create problems. Let me give you an example. All of us, or most of us, have heard of the ketogenic diet. And it has amazing benefits. It can help the body shift into healing and repair and detoxification to turn over worn out cells and replenish and rebalance systems, to calm down inflammation, to shift into fat burning. The list goes on and on. However, if you can't absorb your fatty acids, or if you have a genetic homozygous variant, this means a 70% reduced function of this gene, such as SLC22A4 or A5, it can inhibit the use of carnitine. And this is the shuttle or transporter to get fat into the cell to burn fat as a fuel source. This means that you will be challenged to create energy out of fat. So when you start pouring more fat into the system that is primed for glucose metabolism of carbs and protein due to the limitations in that fatty acid metabolism, you could actually see the opposite impact. From this diet, you could see more weight gain, more inflammation, poor energy, and detoxification issues. I mean, how many times have you seen someone that tried a diet and it was a great success, and then their friend or family member tried to follow the same exact script of that diet, and it did nothing, or maybe even made their symptoms worse? Or if you're someone that enjoys looking at health and wellness articles, or maybe even reading scientific journals, you can find cited research proving that a diet works. You can also find articles that the same diet in the research leads to poor outcomes. What explains all of this is biology. It is not a one-size-fits-all. In fact, the Latin roots of the word diet translates to conquer you. Although this may work temporarily, by its nature, in time, a diet can create further imbalances in your biology and become unsustainable if it is not a perfect fit. Your biology does not need to be overcome, but it needs to be nourished based on its design. The Latin roots of the word nourish translates to food that becomes you. This is what food is, a way to build our body and provide resources, like lines of code that keep all of our body's programs running smoothly. The only way that you can nourish successfully, provide the right code, is to know your body and what it needs. If we have the template, a master design for this code within us that outlines what we need, why would we not go to the source first and then build and design our nutrition and our nourishment plan around it? Much of this is explained by conditioning that someone else outside of us has the answers. Think about it. When it comes to health and wellness, how many hours have you spent listening to various experts, gurus, etc., to solve for you? What do those people know about you? And although they may have incredible insights, how can you have discernment about what aligns to you specifically if you don't even know about you? Over time, we have stopped listening and observing to our body. We have stopped connecting and communicating with it. So I designed this podcast as a mental playground, if you will, of discovery about yourself again, to reclaim your birthright to have knowledge of your body, which when we open our awareness that all levels of ourselves connect through this vessel, this body, you can see that it is the key to unlocking anything and everything that stands in your way to health, well-being, and thriving. Because the body is the complete story of you. Every single experience you've ever had, every thought, every emotion, it all has been shared with your body. And this translates into cellular memory. This is beyond just the building blocks of nutrition. All levels of self merge into the cell. And this serves as a guide back to you, the highest version of you, what you want to release and what you want to build with to form and shape the form of your body and also how it performs, if we choose to learn. The statistics show that about 1/4 of adults and now over 1/3 of children have a diagnosed condition. But what is a condition? It is a cluster of signs and symptoms. This is all feedback. This is the body communicating to you about what it needs. We just have lost the ability to interpret for ourselves. We don't realize that we are also communicating daily with how we nourish, the food that we take in or that we don't, the emotions that we cling to or that we release, the thoughts that we focus on, etc. All of this points to the fact that we are the driver. We are the one that is steering the body, and the body gives us feedback through signs and symptoms. And I've spoken about this on another podcast, but there's a point in our history about 100 years ago when a single term shifted our entire perspective on food and its role in our daily lives, as well as its role to our body and our health. This word was calories. And I won't get into all of the details, but here are a few key points that are pertinent to this discussion. So the term calories was introduced in 1918 through the release of the first weight loss book that became a bestseller titled Diet and Health with the Key to Calories by Dr. Lulu Peters. She was the first person to widely popularize this concept of calorie counting as a method of weight loss. Prior to this, the word calories was not even a part of American vocabulary. She even had to provide instructions on the word's pronunciation, since most Americans at the time were completely unfamiliar with the word. In her book, she explained the importance of balancing food intake and energy used, and she suggested a number of exercises that promoted the expectation that everybody should be able to lose weight and get healthy if they abided by calorie restriction programs. She paid less attention to issues of what sorts of food a person should eat, but rather a person could eat whatever they wanted, as long as they maintained a strict diet of their calculated calorie cap per day. Through this book, food was reconstituted as calories, and it was promoted as a new form of bodily discipline and self-regulation. So diet equals calories, and that's that control of the biology again. She paid less attention to issues of what sorts of food a person should eat, but they could eat whatever they wanted. With the promotion of newspapers like the New York Times, this book became highly popularized, and over the course of 10 years, even school children were learning how to count their calories. However, it wasn't just the education of the term itself that spread. What's really interesting is that there was a huge stigma that also came with the understanding of this term. In her book, Dr. Peters linked the term calories with messaging of the fashion industry at the time, which was in the pre-1920s, that fat was not in style. She wrote about calorie counting and dieting as having this moral dimension, and she suggested that people who did not have control over their weight were morally suspect. Again, that linkage of control and calories and dieting, and it's control over the body. And in order to be thin, one must resist temptations, which she explained with the language of sin, punishment, and redemption. So fast forward 100 years. We are still hyper-focused, above all else when it comes to food, on calories. And we still have these ingrained concepts of if we eat wrong, it's sinful, or we are wrong, or there's something wrong with us if we don't have control over what we're taking in or control of our body. So what happened to our connection with food and health when this word was introduced? I mean, according to data by Market Data Enterprises, a marketing research firm that specializes in tracking niche industries, as of 2022, more than 2/3 of the U.S. adults are overweight or obese, and over 50% have at least one chronic illness. To top it off, Americans spend over $60 billion annually trying to lose weight and get healthy. Now consider how this compares to the last century. An article published by the University of Utah on evolution and obesity found that 100 years ago, obesity was rare. And 100 years ago, we didn't know this term calories. When we lost our connection with food, when we reconstituted it with this metric, we also lost connection with ourselves. And our health has been suffering ever since. As we have discussed, we have spent nearly a century disconnected from food. Not long after the introduction of the word calories, the first half of the 20th century saw extraordinary changes in the ways Americans produced, procured, cooked, and ate food. This included intensive plant and animal breeding, synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, and technological advances in farm equipment that all resulted in dramatically greater yields. New technologies such as mechanical refrigeration, reliable industrial canning, and by the end of the era, frozen foods. This meant that Americans could start eating less locally and less seasonally. And in 1930s, the first supermarket, Kroger's, opened. By 1950s, food retailing was America's largest business. This created easy access to food and expanded options year-round for things that previously had only been available seasonally. With this convenience, we stopped paying attention to what was in season to meet the needs of our body. And with this convenience, we lost awareness of where our food comes from, how it's grown, how it's sourced, how it's handled, and even what it contains. We began to outsource the responsibility of our nutrition to companies, brands, and farmers that the grocery retailers decided to carry. And we allowed someone else to intercede for us between our nourishment and our body. We allowed someone else to dictate what building materials and raw materials that we would start building into our system to guide and direct our health. And we allowed someone else to start guiding our epigenetic regulation, our genetic expression. We looked the other way when chemicals started being added to the farming production and processing, and then to food itself. We looked the other way when processing led to vital nutrients being stripped away of our food. We trusted blindly in this new convenience, but as we did, the new farming production methods reduced the level of nutrients and increased the level of toxins. And our body has been struggling ever since to catch up and to adapt to the ever-growing disproportionate balance of high toxic load and low nutrient density flowing in to work with. If all signs and symptoms of poor health or health issues have a foundational root in nutrient deficiencies and toxic excess, then it is easy to start to see that this started when we became disconnected from food. We now have foods on the market that have a single meal item with over 50 man-made chemical derivatives. Nowhere in the research has it been explored what happens in the body when it is bombarded with this level of altered molecules. It is shifting our physical state. It is constantly putting our system out of tune. Or think of errors in the code. And it's requiring more and more work and more attention to get back into balance. When we are in such a state of imbalance, we do not have body freedom. We are not able to live fully. We do not feel in charge of our body, and we actually might feel that it's working against us. Could this be because we are guiding it to do that, and we are constantly putting in those codes that cause errors in our programs? And as a result, we have lost trust in our bodies. We stopped eating based on its nutrients. Intuitive eating is trusting our body to make food choices that feel good, and this is when we start tuning into that biology. We forgot that food is individual. And here's a beautiful example. An ancient traditional practice, when most people had their own garden of some degree, would be to lick the seed before planting. From the saliva, the seed would take instructions related to nutrients, especially minerals, and the levels, and it would select or seek out those that were missing or lesser from the soil. This means that where the person's deficiencies were, is that the plant would seek to increase pulling from the soil those specific missing nutrients. So the bounty, the greens, the leaves, the fruit, the vegetables, etc., would be tailored to better fulfill the nutrient gaps for that person. And this is key. Every person that licked the seed would result in slight variations of the needs, and the plants would shift production to accommodate. This is a reminder that what we need is not something meant for the masses. Think every fad diet, but rather we need to get back to our master design, our knowledge of what is specific to us, so we can tailor the selection according to what runs our operating system the most effectively, at the moment, during the season, during a life phase, or for a lifetime. Think about this. Our body is conducting over 1 million reactions every minute. It knows exactly what it needs to operate effectively. And when you know how to listen, it usually communicates the same needs, a gap, deficit, or missing nutrients in 5 to 10 different ways. These are signs and symptoms. Transforming the way you see your body and food via building your body knowledge or IQ allows you to leverage your bio-individual needs or the keys to unlock the greatest version of you and your health. It starts with you knowing yourself from the inside out. It's time to flip the tables and take back our knowledge and our power to discern what is required for our body to thrive each and every day. The game changer when it comes to our health and wellness that can put an end to frustrating cycles of trial and error, and instead finding a solution that truly works, is starting at the source. Know thyself. Thank you for listening. If you're ready for a journey of self-discovery through unlearning everything you thought you knew about diets, nutrition, and how it informs your health, and relearning from the perspective of your body's brilliance, then I invite you to join me next time as we continue to challenge the way you see food. Want to connect? Email us at info@theaso.com, THEACESO.com. And be sure to visit us at www.theaso.com, THEACESO, where you can find all of our latest podcasts, blogs, masterclasses, and services to bring your health journey via nutrition to the next level, based on your biologically designed perfect fit.